Sometimes the hardest person to let go of is the one who's already letting go of you. Not because you're weak, but because everything inside you is saying that if you just try harder, explain better, show him more clearly, he'll finally see what he's losing. But here's the thing nobody talks about, and it might sound completely backwards. The moment you stop trying to get him back is usually the exact moment he starts thinking about coming back. Not because you tricked him, not because you played some game, but because you changed something deep inside yourself that changes everything about how he feels around you. When someone walks away, especially when they walk away for someone else, every part of you wants to fight for them, to remind them of all the good times, to show them you're better than the person they picked, to make yourself impossible to forget. But all of this trying, even though it comes from real feelings, does the opposite of what you want. It pushes them away even more. Because what you're putting out into the space between you isn't love anymore, it's need. It's fear. And people can feel that even when you don't say a word. Think about it like this. When someone feels you need them to be okay, they feel trapped. When someone feels you'll be fine without them, they feel drawn to you. It's not logical. It's just how it works. And the reason it works this way is because of something most people never think about. Your emotional state, how you feel inside, sends out a signal. Other people pick up on that signal without even knowing they're doing it. When you're anxious, they feel anxious. When you're desperate, they feel suffocated. But when you're calm, when you're good with yourself, that feeling spreads to them too. They feel it. And that's what pulls them back. Right now, if he left or if he's with someone else, you probably feel like you need to do something, send a message, show up somewhere, post something that makes him miss you, make him see that he made a mistake. But what if the most powerful thing you could do is actually nothing at all? Not because you're ignoring him to hurt him, not because you're pretending not to care, but because you're actually okay, because you're building a life that doesn't need him in it to feel complete. That shift, that real shift inside you is what changes everything. Let me tell you about a woman I know. She was with a guy for 3 years. They talked about getting married, moving in together, all of it. Then one day, out of nowhere, he said he needed space. 2 weeks later, she saw him with someone else. She was destroyed. For weeks, she couldn't sleep. She kept texting him, long messages trying to understand what happened. She'd drive by places she knew he'd be, hoping to run into him. She asked mutual friends about him. She posted photos trying to look happy, but really just hoping he'd see them and feel something. And nothing worked. The more she reached out, the colder he got. The more she tried to remind him of what they had, the more distant he became. She felt like she was disappearing, like if she stopped trying, she'd lose him forever. But then something broke inside her, not in a bad way, in a way that actually set her free. She realized she'd been abandoning herself, that for months, her whole life had been about him, what he was doing, who he was with, whether he missed her. And in all of that, she'd completely forgotten about herself. So she stopped. Not because she had some big plan, not because someone told her it would make him come back. She stopped because she was exhausted. She stopped checking his social media. She stopped asking about him. She started going to the gym again, not to look good for him, but because moving her body made her feel less heavy inside. She started seeing her friends again, really seeing them, not just talking about him the whole time. She took a weekend trip by herself. She started cooking meals she actually liked instead of just eating whatever. Small things, normal things, but things that said, I'm still here. I still matter. And then something strange happened. About 2 months later, he texted her. Not some big confession, just a simple, hey, how have you been? She didn't respond right away. Not because she was playing hard to get, but because she was actually busy living her life. When she did respond, she was kind but brief. She didn't ask about him. She didn't bring up the past. She just answered his question and went on with her day. He texted again a few days later. Then he called. Then he said he wanted to see her. When they finally met up, he looked at her differently. He said, you seem different, like really different. And she was. She wasn't the same woman who had been chasing him. She wasn't sitting around waiting for him to decide she was good enough. She had become someone who knew her own worth, not because someone told her she had worth, but because she'd spent months proving it to herself. Here's the thing about what happened to her and what can happen for you too. When you stop chasing, you're not just changing what you're doing. You're changing the entire energy of the situation. Think of it like a dance. If one person is always moving toward the other person naturally moves back. It's automatic. But the moment you stop moving forward, the moment you find your own ground and stand still, the other person notices. They feel the shift. And if there was ever anything real between you, that shift makes them curious. It makes them wonder. It makes them start moving towards you, even if they don't fully understand why. This isn't about tricks. This isn't about making him jealous or playing games. This is about something real. When you're constantly trying to get someone back, your energy is saying, I'm not okay without you. I need you to feel complete. Please choose me. And that energy, no matter how you dress it up, feels heavy to the other person. But when you step back and start taking care of yourself, when you actually build a life that feels good, your energy shifts to something completely different. It says, I'm good. I'm whole. I'd love to share my life with you, but I don't need you to be okay. And that energy is magnetic. People feel it. They're drawn to it because it's rare. Now, let me be clear about something. This only works if it's real. You can't fake this. You can't pretend to be okay while secretly obsessing over him. You can't post happy photos while crying yourself to sleep every night and expect him to suddenly come running back. People feel what's real. If you're just putting on a show, he'll feel that too. The power comes from actually doing the work, from actually shifting your focus from him to you, from actually building something in your life that matters, whether he's in it or not. So let's talk about the 3 things you need to actually do. Not tricks, not tactics, but real shifts that change everything. The first thing is this: you have to stop all contact, not to punish him, not to make him wonder about you, but because you need space to remember who you are. When someone leaves, especially for someone else, your first instinct is to stay connected, to keep the door open, to let them know you're still there. But every time you reach out, every time you respond immediately, every time you make yourself available, you're telling him that nothing has changed, that you're still in the same place, waiting, hoping, needing him to come back. Real space means real silence. It means not texting him, not calling, not liking his photos or watching his stories, not asking friends about him, not showing up at places you know he'll be. This feels impossible at first. Your mind will come up with 1,000 reasons why you need to reach out. You'll think of things you need to say, questions you need answered, things you left at his place. It's all just your mind trying to create a reason to connect, because the silence feels too big, too scary. But here's what happens in that silence. You start to hear yourself again, your own thoughts, your own feelings, not the ones wrapped up in him, but the real ones underneath. You start to remember what you liked before him, what made you laugh, what made you feel alive. The silence isn't empty. It's full of you coming back to yourself. And that's what has to happen before anything else can change. There's something else that happens when you create real space. He starts to feel your absence. Not right away, usually. At first, if he's with someone else, he might not even notice. He's caught up in something new. But as time passes, as days turn into weeks and you're not there, something shifts for him too. He starts to notice the things that are missing. The way you used to text him good morning, the way you check in during the day, the way you knew exactly what he needed when he was stressed. All those little things that felt normal when you were there suddenly feel absent. And absence, real absence, creates space for him to actually miss you. You can't force someone to miss you. You can't make them realize what they lost by constantly reminding them. Missing someone happens in the quiet, in the moments when they reach for their phone to text you and remember you're not there anymore, in the late nights when they're alone with their thoughts, in the times when something reminds them of you and there's no way to share it. That's when the real missing happens, but it can only happen if you're actually gone. The second thing you have to do is focus on yourself in a real way, not as a strategy to get him back, but as a genuine return to your own life. When you're heartbroken, when someone chooses someone else over you, it's easy to fall into a dark place, to stop taking care of yourself, to let everything slide, Because what's the point if he's not there to see it? But this is exactly backwards. The truth is, you probably lost yourself a bit in that relationship. Most people do. You started caring more about what he thought than what you thought. You changed little things about yourself to fit what he wanted. You made his happiness more important than your own. You organized your life around his schedule, his needs, his world. And slowly, without realizing it, you became smaller. Not because he was a bad person, but because that's what happens when you make someone else the center of your life. Now you have a choice. You can stay in that small place hoping he'll come back and make you feel big again, or you can start rebuilding yourself piece by piece into someone even stronger than you were before. This means different things for different people, but here are some real examples. Maybe it means getting back into things you stopped doing. That hobby you loved but didn't have time for anymore. That group of friends you slowly drifted away from because you were always with him. That goal you had before you met him that got pushed to the side. Start there, not because you're trying to look busy or interesting, but because those things were part of you and they're still waiting for you to come back. Maybe it means taking care of your body again, not to look good for him or to make him jealous. But because when you move your body, when you feed it well, when you give it rest, your mind starts to clear. Exercise isn't just physical. When you're moving, when your heart is pumping, the anxiety quiets down. The obsessive thoughts slow down. You start to feel like yourself again. You start to feel strong. And that strength isn't just in your muscles. It's in how you carry yourself, how you think about yourself, how you show up in the world. Maybe it means doing something you've never done before, taking a class, learning something new, going somewhere you've always wanted to go. When you're stuck in heartbreak, your world gets very small. It's just you and your pain and your thoughts about him. But when you step outside of that, when you do something that challenges you or excites you or scares you a little bit, you remember that there's a whole world out there, that your life is bigger than this one person, that you're capable of more than you've been giving yourself credit for. Here's what's important to understand. When you start doing these things, really doing, them. Not just going through the motions. Something shifts inside you. You start to feel different, more solid, more yourself, less like you're waiting for something to happen and more like you're actually living. And that shift shows up in everything, in how you talk, how you walk, how you look at people. You stop having that desperate edge, that please see me, please choose me energy that pushes people away. Instead, you start to have this calm, grounded presence that pulls people toward you. And if he ever sees you again, if you ever cross paths, he's going to notice. He's not going to see the person who was falling apart, who was begging for another chance. He's going to see someone who got back up, someone who's doing fine, actually better than fine without him. And that's going to make him question everything. Not because you tried to make him question it, but because the version of you he's seeing doesn't match the story he told himself about why he left. The third thing, and this is the one most people miss, is you have to change how you see the whole situation. Not just what you do, but how you think about what happened. Because right now, if he left or if he's with someone else, you probably see it as a rejection, as proof that you weren't good enough, that she's better than you, that you failed somehow. And as long as you see it that way, you're going to stay stuck. You're going to keep trying to prove your worth to someone who isn't there. But what if you looked at it completely differently? What if him leaving wasn't about you not being enough? What if it was about him not being ready for what you had to offer? What if it was about him needing to learn something he could only learn by walking away? What if it was about the timing being wrong, or him having his own issues he hasn't dealt with yet, or 1,000 other things that have nothing to do with your value as a person? When someone leaves, we automatically make it mean something about us. We scan everything we did wrong, everything we could have done better. We compare ourselves to whoever they're with now and find all the ways we don't measure up. But that whole process is based on a false belief. The belief that if we were just good enough, perfect enough, special enough, they would have stayed. And that's not how it works. People leave for all kinds of reasons. Most of those reasons have way more to do with them than with you. Think about relationships in your past, times when you were the one who left. Was it always because the other person wasn't good enough? Or was it sometimes about where you were in your life, what you were ready for, what you needed at that moment? Sometimes the timing is just wrong. Sometimes two people can be great individually, but wrong together. Sometimes someone has to leave to grow into the person they need to be. None of that means you're not valuable. None of that means you're not worthy of love. The work here is internal. It's changing the story you're telling yourself. Instead of, he left because I'm not enough, try, he left because this wasn't right for him at this time. Instead of, she's better than me, try, she's different from me. And that's okay. Instead of, I failed, try, this relationship ran its course. These aren't just positive affirmations. They're actually more accurate ways of seeing reality. Because the truth is, you are enough. You always were. His leaving doesn't change that. His choice doesn't define your value. When you really start to believe this, when it sinks in deeper than just words, everything changes. You stop needing him to come back to feel okay. You stop needing his validation to know you're worthy. You stop putting your life on hold, waiting for him to realize he made a mistake. You start moving forward, building something real, creating a life that actually feels good. And that's when the most interesting thing happens. Sometimes he comes back, not always, but often. And when he does, it's not because you convinced him or because you proved something. It's because you became the kind of person who doesn't need him to come back. You became someone who's whole on your own, someone who's confident and clear and living a full life. And that version of you is completely different from the version he left. That version is magnetic in a way the old version never was, because the old version needed him. This new version simply is. But here's the really important part. By the time he comes back, if he comes back, you might not even want him anymore because you've changed, you've grown, you've remembered who you are and what you actually want. And you might realize that he doesn't fit into this new life you've built, that what you had before isn't what you want anymore. And that's okay. Actually, that's more than okay. That's growth. That's you honoring yourself. That's you choosing based on what's right for you, not based on who's willing to choose you. There's a pattern that keeps playing out. A woman gets left, she falls apart, she chases, she tries to convince him to come back. It doesn't work. She eventually gives up, not because she has a strategy, but because she's exhausted. She starts taking care of herself again. She rebuilds her life. She becomes okay without him. And then out of nowhere, he shows up again, saying he made a mistake, saying he misses her, saying he wants another chance. But by then, she's different. She's not the same person who would have taken him back immediately, just grateful that he came back at all. She's someone who knows her worth now, someone who's not afraid to be alone, someone who's built something good and isn't willing to tear it down for someone who already left once. So when he comes back, she gets to decide. Really decide. Not from a place of desperation, but from a place of clarity. Does this person, this relationship, fit into the life I've built? Does he add to it or does he take away from it? Is he showing up differently or is he the same person who left? These are the questions you get to ask when you do the work, when you actually stop chasing and start building, when you shift your focus from getting him back to getting yourself back. And those questions, that ability to choose from a place of strength instead of need, that's the real power. That's what all of this has been building toward. Let me tell you about another woman. She was in love with a guy who kept pulling away and coming back. For 2 years, she rode this wave. Every time he'd pull away, she'd panic. She'd reach out more, try harder, make herself more available. And every time he'd come back, but only for a little while before pulling away again. She felt crazy. She felt like she was doing something wrong, like if she could just figure out the right thing to say or do, he'd finally stay. One day, after he pulled away for the 10th time, something in her just broke. She was done. Not angry, just done. She didn't send a long message. She didn't try to have one more conversation. She just stopped engaging. When he reached out a week later, like he always did, she didn't respond. Not to punish him, but because she realized she didn't want this anymore. She didn't want to be with someone she had to convince to stay. She threw herself into her life. She started a new project at work that she'd been putting off. She booked a trip with her sister. She started therapy to work through why she'd accepted so little for so so long. She wasn't doing any of this to get him back. She was doing it because she finally understood that her life couldn't revolve around someone who kept leaving. 3 months went by. He reached out multiple times. She barely responded, short, polite, but distant. Then one day, he showed up at her door. He said he'd been doing his own work, that he realized what he'd been doing, that he wanted to try for real this time. And you know what she said? She said she'd think about it. Not because she was playing games, but because she actually needed to think about it. Because she'd built something good in those 3 months. And she wasn't sure if letting him back in was the right choice anymore. That's the power of really doing this work. It's not about getting him back. It's about getting yourself to a place where getting him back isn't the most important thing anymore, where you're actually okay either way, where you know deep in your bones that you'll be fine no matter what he decides. Because you've already proven to yourself that you can build a good life without him. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but what if I do all of this and he still doesn't come back? And here's the honest answer: he might not. This isn't a guarantee. There's no magic formula that makes someone come back 100% of the time. People are complicated. Relationships are complicated. Sometimes people leave and don't come back, no matter what you do. But here's what is guaranteed. If you do this work, if you really stop chasing and start building, if you shift your focus from him to you will be okay. You'll be more than okay. You'll be stronger, clearer, more yourself than you've been in a long time. You'll have built a life that feels good. You'll have proven to yourself that you don't need someone else to be happy. And that foundation, that strength, that's yours forever. No one can take that away from you. And from that place, if he does come back, you get to choose wisely. You get to see clearly whether he's actually changed, whether the relationship would actually be different this time, whether it's what you really want. You're not choosing from desperation. You're choosing from power. And if he doesn't come back, you're still in a good place. You're still moving forward. You're still building something real. And you're open to someone new, someone better, someone who sees your worth from the beginning and doesn't need to lose you to realize it. There's also something important to understand about the pattern of chasing. When you chase someone, when you keep reaching out and trying and hoping, you're teaching them that they can leave and you'll still be there. You're showing them that your love is unconditional in a bad way, that they don't have to treat you well or show up for you or choose you clearly, because you'll be there anyway. And people, even good people, will treat you exactly how you teach them to treat you. But when you stop chasing, and when you create real space, when you show through your actions that you're not going to accept being someone's backup plan or their maybe option, you're teaching them something different. You're showing them that your time, your energy, your love, these things have value, that they're not just freely available to anyone who doesn't appreciate them. And that shift, that boundary, often makes people wake up. It makes them realize that they can't just leave whenever they want and find you waiting when they decide to come back. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about actually being hard to get. It's about actually having standards for how you allow people to treat you. It's about valuing yourself enough to walk away from situations that don't honor you. And when you do that, when you really embody that, people notice. The right people step up, the wrong people fall away. And either way, you're better off. So if he left, if he's with someone else, if he broke your heart, here's what you do. You feel it, you cry, you let yourself be sad, but then you get up, you stop all contact. You focus on yourself in a real way. You change how you see what happened. You build a life that feels good with or without him. You prove to yourself that you're okay. And then you watch what